To have faith in God is not a stagnant state. It's a journey. As a believer, we should grow in our knowledge of God and His Word. Walk with Alan Cutting and many other believers as together we walk the believer's journey.
Aloha, and thank you for joining us again on the believer's journey. I'm so thankful that you are here, that you're watching us, and that you support us with your prayers, your watching, your finances. We just really do appreciate it. And I want to say that we have a really interesting program today. We're going to talk about mental health and finding your identity in Jesus. You know, this all will include depression, anxiety, and things like that. So I have a pretty remarkable young lady with me, Hailey Schaefer. And I met Hailey probably a few months ago. However, we had a connection because her in-laws have attended my class for several times. We actually are friends. And so when I met Hailey, I didn't know that she was related, and it was just really kind of cute. Anyway, I want to introduce you, Hailey.
Hello.
Hailey she's the founder and the president of Abundance Ministries, and it's an organization that serves women and families facing crisis of unplanned pregnancy. So it's a really fairly new ministry. Tell us about this, how you got started and when and all that.
Yeah, so Abundance Ministries is a brand new ministry. We were actually founded in February. I got started, God put it on my heart very fast, and it just kind of unfolded faster than I could have expected. But my journey in unplanned pregnancy or crisis pregnancy actually began when my mom was pregnant with me back in '93, and it was a geriatric pregnancy, and so she was advised to have an amniocentesis, which, if you don't know what that is, they stick a needle in the mom's belly, draw some amniotic fluid, and test it for birth defects. And generally that's more so used with geriatric pregnancies or if they foresee some type of issue. So she had the amniocentesis. The doctor called her on a Friday night and said, come down to the office. You know, it's not looking good. We do have something to talk about. And so my parents joined him that evening, and he said that I, according to the results, was going to have spina bifida. And so I would be confined to a wheelchair the rest of my life. I would never walk, and that they would have to care for me the rest of their lives. And I have 2 older sisters, and so he said, you know, I'm sure that this is not what you expected, and you need to consider your other kids as well and your well-being. And so, you know, we can talk about an abortion. And that was something that they wanted to lay on the table, and my parents didn't think twice. They just said no, and this is the child that God gave to us, and so we're going to care for her in whatever capacity that looks like. And so they were extremely sacrificial in their love for me at that stage to be willing to lay down their life for me and care for me. And when I was born, I was fine. And turned out that the doctor actually hit me with the needle, and I have a scar or a dimple on my cheek. And you can see where the doctor hit me. And so he drew blood from my cheek, and that's how they got that result. So I had no idea that this is how it was going to play into abundance, but I had my daughter at 30 weeks back in 2020 during the height of COVID, and so she was in the NICU for 37 days. And when the heartbeat bill took effect here in Texas, that was the first time that my heart was truly broken. And I remember taking a shower thinking, oh my gosh, I saw my daughter at 30 weeks and she was no less of a baby at 30 weeks, fighting for her life and breathing and crying and doing all the baby things. You know, when I saw her outside the womb, and most don't get to see their babies at that age. And so I was heartbroken, and I started getting educated, and then eventually partnered with another ministry, and then God quickly put Abundance on my heart. So that was in October, and I launched it in January, and as of February we were an organization.
Wow. Now, for all of you who might be in Asia or Philippines or somewhere, you may not know geriatrics. It's basically someone who's older.
Yeah.
and so they're having children at an older age, and so sometimes that's a little more risky. Okay. But you move along pretty quickly. I mean, I've seen you walk. I've seen you pack and unpack when you were at your little show.
Yeah.
In fact, you unpack faster than some of these other people. So talk to us about your ministry. How do you service people? Well, it says women. I guess we would be a whole family, right? Anybody in that situation. So what do you do?
So it's not just for women facing an unplanned pregnancy. Whatever the family unit looks like, we want to support and keep that intact. So if it's a woman and a child, or a woman and boyfriend and a child, or a woman and her parents and the child, or a teen even, whatever that family unit looks like, whether they're single or there's a spouse or whoever, support person, we want to support them, whatever the crisis is, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. So we offer counseling and offer counseling through whatever the crisis is, as well as post-abortive. We fill gift bags that are handed out to women at abortion facilities to equip them with other resources that are free or low cost, with life-affirming resources. And they're also filled with goodies like granola bars and nail polish and loofahs and hand cream and that kind of thing. And it's a good conversation starter, because I just say, hey, I have this free gift bag. Would you like one? And who doesn't want a free gift bag? So that gets the conversation started, and then we can direct them to other resources. So we fill gift bags, and then we pray once a month for women in this position, really tough positions. And we also donate diapers and wipes to local pregnancy center.
Now, I noticed that in your bio, you talked about you're here in San Antonio, Texas, and you're wanting to make an impact here. I guess you are starting to make an impact here, and but you have the dream, I guess, or to actually impact and grow all over the nation, over the United States.
Yeah. So when I say that God put it on my heart, I really mean that this whole thing has been God moving me in different directions and telling me what to do. So my original idea was to have Abundance just as a ministry, not even a nonprofit, not an organization, just a ministry in our church. And then funny story, was at the grocery store with my husband and my daughter, and we pulled into a parking spot, and we ended up parking next to a white VW Bug, and there were a bunch of stickers on that car. And we were like, what are those stickers? And you could tell they were Sharpie, like handwritten notes on it. So we started reading them, and then the owner of that car came out, and she started talking to us, and she said, we meet strangers across the U.S., and you put whatever your dream is on the car. And it's kind of like an inspirational thing. So she asked us if we wanted to do one, and there's 5 different categories. It's like financial, faith, education. So I said, okay, I'll do a faith one. And I had no idea what I was going to write, but I put Abundance Go Nationwide, and I stuck it on the car, and I was like, what did I just do? So my husband said, I think God's telling you to take it nationwide. So I'm like, okay. So here I am, and my goal now is to plant it in communities and in churches that do not have a crisis pregnancy ministry. And so we can make that impact and educate and equip families in that position.
Now, to whom do you go speak to when you do speaking engagements?
Different organizations right now is more so the focus. I'm partnering with different organizations such as Ransom Life. We give to a Women's Haven. I have connections at Allied Women's Center, different pregnancy centers across the U.S., and then also not even women, just people that know someone in a crisis pregnancy. Yesterday I made a phone call to someone that her daughter's in a crisis. Actually, she had the baby, but they're in crisis, and so I made that phone call and making connections that way.
Okay. Well, I know that your husband is a pastor. He's a worship
leader.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good one, from what I understand. I took your in-laws out of my class for that reason. So, So now I have to keep in touch with them other ways.
Yeah.
But so let me ask you. To me, it doesn't seem like. Well, it seems like this kind of ministry can have a lot of heart-wrenching feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So, where do you go to help boost yourself up?
A lot of it is just people in my corner, in my circle. My husband, my family, everyone in my community that has a personal relationship with me has been super supportive. Our pastor has been incredible. And just, I guess more so the fact that everyone is rooting me on in just the sole act of obedience to what God's calling me to, and everyone's willing to volunteer and pitch in and pray and helping whatever capacity that means for them. And that's the nice thing, is because it's equipping me to equip women and families.
Yeah. It's interesting. I know that a lot of people talk about praying for the women or the families that come to ministries like yours, but they don't think about praying for the people who actually are running the ministry.
Yeah.
And how hard it is for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a very heartbreaking, heavy burden, but there's a need for it. And like someone I know often says, when there's a great opportunity, or where there's a great need, there's a great opportunity. And yeah, that's for sure.
So you and I watched a video earlier, okay, and it was pretty powerful.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was about a woman who, I guess she's young. She's a teenager, it looked like, and she got pregnant. And it's like, oh no, what do I do? I might lose my scholarship to college, or my friends might be this way, or family disown me. All these things happen. I may not have a career any longer. But then it talked about something that I don't think of or haven't thought of until I saw this. And it said, do you want to see what you might be missing if you go through with an abortion? And so in that, it showed the baby being as a child and growing up and going to school and graduating and becoming in the military.
Marine.
And then he got married and had children and so forth, and so on. So in your ministry, I noticed that more than once I read that you're about giving hope to those. So with a person like in this video, what can you say that helps people maybe watching this to give some kind of hope?
Yeah. Like I said, it's a very heavy topic, and my mindset behind it is meeting the woman or the family, whoever it is that we're in contact with, right where they're at. You know, it's so easy for someone to say, oh, just have the baby. It'll be great. It'll be fine. You know, but that's not always the case. You know, they could be in a crisis pregnancy for multiple reasons. You know, it could be a diagnosis for the baby, such as, you know, what my mom had with me. It could be rape and incest. It could be a teen pregnancy. It could be that the mom is in school and it's just really overwhelming, the thought of having a newborn and going to school. It could be so many different issues. And it is hard, I think anyone can agree, when you're in crisis or in facing a very difficult situation, it's hard to look past what you're seeing right now. And I think now too, as a mom myself, it's a little bit more of a broad picture for me. And so I think someone in that position, it's like, okay, I know that you're in this position, and I'm so sorry that you're facing this, and I'm so sorry that you feel like you cannot go through with this pregnancy. And I'm not saying that it's going to be an easy walk, but you're going to have someone there with you and believing in you and supporting you in whatever it may be. Our number is 24/7. Our toll-free number is 24/7, and it comes directly to me. And I'm willing to make that sacrifice to be able to pick up the phone in the middle of the night and talk to a mom in crisis. You know, and so I think that's hard, is that a lot of times people will say, oh, we'll support you, but then what happens after the baby's born, or they say that, but then there's no action to it. And so I think that that's something is that a lot of women in crisis pregnancy feel that anxiety and feel that depression or feel that fear of, oh my gosh, I'm in crisis, what do I do? And then panic. And I want to come alongside them and equip them. That's our slogan, is to fulfill needs, equip families, and share hope. So equip them so they can choose life.
Okay, so give us a picture. Here's a young lady comes to you. I really don't know how to draw this picture, whether it be a boyfriend or someone who's not available or whatever, but she comes to you. Where are you with this person from step A to B to C to D?
Yeah. A lot of it is coming alongside them and directing them to resources that can help them besides us. So like I said, I do have a lot of resources for pregnancy centers or, people that will help them, or organizations that will help them with their bills. We can help with diapers and wipes and cribs and high chairs. My garage is full right now with donations. And so, like I always say, if we know the need, we can meet that, whether that be through Abundance, us ourselves giving the resources, or connecting them with someone in their community that can.
And then, as far as longevity, how long do you continue with that person?
As of right now, we're continuing about 6 months, and then as we grow, since we're a brand new organization, as we grow, my goal is to be longer, like 3 years.
I have to say, most people that I've had on my program, whether of these type of organizations, I've talked to or I've had the director or executive director or on these programs of these different ministries. I think what makes you unique is you're the founder of one of these organizations that I haven't had. I've had founders of other types of organizations, but the fire in you and the passion in you is like bubbling over. It's different. I don't know how to explain that, but I have to tell you, I can see it. I think it's probably very evident as you're talking that you're speaking to thousands of people that probably see you are passionate about this. Not that you have become the executive director and you got a paycheck. No, you've started this on your own, and I think that's remarkable.
Thank you.
I do know your pastor, and he's a friend of mine, and I think you've got a great guy on your board.
Yeah. I
do know your in-laws, and I love them so much.
Yeah.
I know your husband very little. I love him.
But he's great too.
I love him. So you've got a lot of support, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, this is really neat. A lot of our audience is out of the country, is in Europe, a lot of Eastern Europe. We're growing in Turkey, we're growing in Philippines, we're growing in the Middle East, believe it or not, Europe. And there's only probably 1/10 to maybe 2/5 of their audience is in the United States, maybe 1,000 or 2,000. For those people outside of the United States, what would you have to say to them if they needed information or what to do or how to do? Because there's a lot of people with a lot of problem with this and don't know where to go.
You mean if they're facing a crisis pregnancy there?
Yeah.
That is a really, really hard question, because also the culture there is different. And so I don't know what that looks like in a different country. I don't know what as far as their outreach looks like, but if there are pregnancy resource centers.
Have you ever thought of, I'm just throwing this out to you, this is totally off the wall.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of having a section on your website that, they may not be able to contact you, because the people there are just like the people here. The problem is we have a lot of resources here, and they may not have a lot of resources there.
Yeah.
But just to throw this out at you, have you ever think about maybe having a page where somebody could read that could give them hope in other parts of the world?
That's a really good point. And I think that on that same note, hope is not geographical.
That's true.
It doesn't matter where you are, because if you have resources in faith, or you have Christ, or know someone who can direct you to Christ, that's not geographical, and I love that idea, and I'm not dismissing that at all. I just think hope is hope. And so if someone has access to some support system, whoever that is, and that might be us, that's what the person needs in that moment.
I have a friend who's coming out from Moldova.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've all heard of the Ukraine lately, and this family's coming out from Moldova, and I want you to meet them. Actually,
Yeah.
the whole family's coming, and he works with families, a family ministry in Moldova, and there's a lot of crisis situations that they deal with, and there's not a lot of support like we have here. You have ministry after ministry here.
Yeah.
And they don't have that. Even what he's doing with the organization he's with, he's like a lone wolf. I mean, he and only a couple other people.
Yeah.
And it's really tough.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up, is because, sometimes people don't have hope because it's like, we don't know where to go.
Right.
And if they run into him, then, he has a lot of self-counseling and help and hope-giving. He and his wife are really good at this. So that's why I said if people can see that,
Yeah.
and even if you could even, like you touch base with people here, if you could have notations to people elsewhere. I'm
Yeah.
throwing this at you. I
Yeah.
know this is a big thing.
No, and that's a lot of my hope and my goal through my posts on Instagram and Facebook too, is that I'm not the type to stand at an abortion facility and yell at the women going in, or call them baby killers, or to be aggressive. My hope is to be hope and to be gentle and to meet them where they're at. So again, I think that if someone has access to social media, find our page and you can find hope in our posts, because my goal is to, like I said earlier, to see them through the now, and to give perspective to what is to come with their child.
So if somebody goes to your website, do you have links that go to your posts on Instagram or Facebook or whatever you have?
For our website, we do not yet, because our full website is being built right now. We just have a landing page where they can click to volunteer or donate, or our toll-free number. But our Instagram and Facebook page does have a lot of posts, just little tidbits to give just a glimmer of hope or encouragement to get through the day.
So to find you on Facebook or Instagram, what would you type in to search?
Yeah, so our Facebook link is facebook.com/abundance.ministries.usa, and USA is all capitalized. And then on Instagram, it's abundance.ministries.
Okay. That's really good to know. And I'm sorry to throw that at you about
No,
the
please.
international thing, but
Yeah.
because I go internationally and I
Yeah.
see this and I speak to people and I see the tragedies and the hurt and divorce rate and the pregnancies, all these things happening worldwide. And I'm noticing we have a lot of resources here, not like a lot of areas in the world have.
Yeah.
So just because I'm watching your passion, I'm thinking, what do you think about this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to throw too much on you, because I know you have a lot on your plate. So, but I also know you have an amazing backup people to help you and work with you. So that is really, really cool. So, I'm really impressed. I'm impressed with what you're doing. I'm impressed with you following God's calling.
Thank you.
I'm impressed of how when God lays something on people's heart, a lot of people just how they take it. And you've done very well as far as what it's all about. When I saw you at the little missionary stands, when I went through them a few months ago, you impressed me, and I didn't even know who you were.
Well, thank you.
Now that I know who you were, it's oh, that makes sense. Their family is really cool.
I married into a great family.
You did marry into a good family, and it was really funny because my wife and I went to California this last week, and which I have to say that I didn't do a program last week because my mother had her purse stolen, and so I spent the day with her instead of doing my program, and I wanted to make sure she was okay. Yeah. She lost everything in her purse and so forth. But on our way back, we were talking about your mother and father-in-law and how, because they don't go to my class anymore, we don't really see them much. And goes, we really need to go out with them and invite them over and do things because they're incredible.
Yeah.
They're really incredible. And so it's not always that you bump into incredible people.
Yeah. That's very, very true.
So you are fortunate in the family you married into,
yeah.
I have to say. And I think they're fortunate into having you because I think you're amazing.
Thank you.
So anyway, Abundance Ministries, look it up. Look on Facebook, abundanceministries.org. If you go to the website, you got the landing page. Pretty soon it'll be a full website. And on our website, you can go to the guests and you can see there's a phone number there. There's a email address if you want to find out more. If you're somebody who lives in the San Antonio area that you want to volunteer or help out or give, there's all the information there that's available. And I really believe in this young lady. I believe in her ministry, and I think that I got 2 thumbs up.
Thank you.
So let's talk about mental health and finding the identity in Jesus. I think this is a good topic. This is your big thing, and the more I thought about it through the week, because we deal with this in areas and with people we don't even realize. There's a passage I want to read, and we'll talk about this, and it's in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. And Paul says, be anxious for nothing. And I think when we think about being anxious, I think there's more than just say, I want. I think there's more about anxiety. Don't have anxieties about anything. I think there's a bigger picture than what we have been told. So be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Why I read that verse first is because I think what Paul is doing here is saying, you know what? There's hope beyond, the hardships, the things that we struggle with, the heartaches. And because your whole thing here is a lot about hope, I want to read that passage first. So what do you think?
I am very passionate about mental health, not only because I think that does have a lot to do with abundance, and mental health sometimes can be diminished in crisis situations, but also because I have had my fair share with mental health struggles. I've struggled my entire life with anxiety and depression. And so I think that that's a perfect passage because, I think the whole world is broken even yesterday with the tragedy in Uvalde. And I think that perfectly sums up how I was feeling last night. I was super anxious last night, super torn up, sobbing as I put my daughter down in her crib last night to go to sleep. And I was just thinking, okay, how am I going to sleep tonight and still feel the brokenness of this world and be able to process this? And the only reason that I slept was I turned on worship music and put it under my pillow, and that's how I slept all night. Because I think that when you put on, and it's so easy to say put on the full armor of God, but really focus on truths and just bathing in that does something to your body, that does something to your heart that anxiety cannot touch if you are filling your mind with truth, eternal truth.
Right, eternal truth. I mean, the truth of it is, in the world, we're in a broken world.
Yeah.
We're in a imperfect world. I watched this program one time called the Coming Conversions. It's about the end times. It's actually about a tribulation period and how we got there. Like it's already happened, and we're here, and you can see the whole world is all in array. Mm-hmm. Doesn't talk about the rapture, which is really good because it talks about, what's happening and what's happened, and why do we get to this period of time of this tribulation. All we were trying to do is make our world perfect, but this person in here in the show said, but you have to come to realize that we're trying to make a perfect world from people who are imperfect. How that just can't be.
Right.
And I think that, and I've watched a lot of the videos, a lot of comments, and even the news programs about what happened in Uvalde yesterday. And I guess it's like people are expecting this world and everything to be perfect. And it's without the understanding that it's not perfect, that the only one who is perfect is Jesus.
Right.
And I think it's heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Like you said, it is. Yeah. It's heart-wrenching. How do you, I was watching this one video. This one girl was angry. In fact, there was a few of them angry because they have children in school. Mm-hmm. And so she went out and she says, I hate to have this happen, but she went out and bought a body armor for her kid. And I thought, wow, And it shouldn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that people are looking at the world, and cut in if you need to here, but I think people are looking at the world praying and expecting perfect healing when their lives or other lives are living in sin and living in ways that they're not honoring to God. Mm-hmm. And we're expecting this healing in wonderful ways, but we're not willing to be that which God has called us to do, mm-hmm. which is to get rid of the lifestyle that is opposed to Him.
Right. And we're not going to have wholeness until we're in heaven. So there's no way evil is here, and it's alive and well. And it's everywhere in different forms. That's what I was telling my husband yesterday when we were talking about it. I'm like, it seems like it's even more so now than even when I was growing up. I feel like it's mm-hmm. in so many different forms, and there are so many situations that many easily and rightfully so feel anxious about, because when we're in such a secular world and we're thinking about here and now and protecting our kids and protecting ourselves, and even finances can cause anxiety, and it's just, we live in a broken world, and the only answer is Jesus.
It is. Here's something Jesus said, which I thought was really good, and it's in John 14:27. He says, "Peace I leave you, my peace I give you, not as the world gives, do I give to you. So let your heart not be troubled, nor let it be fearful." And this is in a period of time when Jesus is alive, during another nation ruling them, controlling them, mm-hmm. which in several years or a few years after this very nation, the Roman Empire, literally mows them over, tears down all their buildings and scatters them worldwide. Mm-hmm. So I think we've got a pretty, easy, we live in a nation, and there's a lot of countries that live in a nation where it's pretty peaceful, pretty easy. Mm-hmm. We have these little uproars here and there. and we wonder what's going on. When we look at a lot of the history, people don't have that. I look at Ukraine, and look what Putin is doing, all because he wants to rebuild the Soviet Union. And it's pretty bad, but we have it pretty lax. But God calls us to righteousness. He calls us to holiness. And I think if we don't do that, well, let me ask you, expound on this. Do we have, or what kind of right do we have to expect God to heal everything if we're not willing to live in holiness or righteousness?
Yeah. Well, and that also makes me think of what Pastor Royce was preaching on when he did the Jonah series, and he was talking about the condition of Nineveh and just how evil and how corrupt that nation was when he called Jonah to go there.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said earlier, we live in a broken world, but it doesn't mean to lose hope. It doesn't mean to stop praying. And again, I feel like there's a lot of easy things to just say, right? God uses everything for good, but it's true. He doesn't cause things to happen, or he doesn't I guess he does let things happen, but you know what I'm saying? He doesn't cause things to happen, but he uses everything for good. And everybody has a different testimony. Everyone has different struggles because we have different people and different ways to reach the world.
Yeah, in fact, that verse you just kind of halfway said, Romans 8:28, let me read that. He says, and we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God and to those who are called according to his purpose. One of the fallacies of that verse is people stop after the word good. God causes all things to work together for good, and they stop.
Yeah.
But it goes on. To those who love God, to those with a purpose, following him. And it's interesting how, we want to stop because we want just the goody stuff,
Yeah.
And even in the Old Testament, it says the heart of man is wicked,
And I think it's also important to recognize, and this is something that I've started to exercise, is that in the trials and in the panic and in the situations that cause anxiety or whatever, is that there isn't a period. There's an organization, it's called Project Semicolon, and a lot of people have it tattooed on them, and it's just that my story is not over. And I think that's so applicable to situations. It's a semicolon, but God is still there. God is still good. God still meets us. My favorite worship song is Here Again, and it's talking about God meeting us in the middle and him coming to us. And I guess that's maybe my approach of why I started Abundance, and my approach to it is meeting people where they're at, and God always meets us where we're at because he never leaves us. And so I think that's a really good truth to hold on to is, the situation, whatever I'm facing, may be really, really crummy, and it feels bad, and I don't know what the end result is, but he's there.
Yeah. And it's really cool because when Paul writes these things, we have to remember most of the time he's in jail. He's not saying why God. He's giving out the purpose for God's working in glory and honor and so forth. And he's actually honoring God right there while he's in prison.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. When I was young, I was really active in everything, sports especially, and a couple of things happened to me. I had my arm cut up really bad, and so I kind of lost the whole purpose of being real big in sports. I was a pitcher, quarterback, and all this. So I really didn't get in high school. I just lost it. Wasn't able to pursue those areas. And then when I was in a senior high school, all of a sudden I had this grand mal seizure, and I had this problem, and I didn't know where it came from, and I blamed God. Why did you do this, God? And I would ask people, why did God do this? I'd ask pastors, well, it's not his will, but his permissive will. No real good answer, and it really bothered me. And I went through life in the first part of my life, first 10 years or so, struggling with medications, struggling with having to make good decisions. And there was a chaplain that said to me, and I wrote it in a book. Reuben Welch is his name, and he said, when things happen, we shouldn't be asking God why something happened, but rather, how can God use it? God, how can you use me in spite of these circumstances?
Yeah.
And I think that helps, or it should help in our anxiety. It should help in our depression. Because I lived in a depression without knowing I was living in a depression. I didn't show that I was in a depression. It was kind of underlying.
Yeah.
How do you...
And I think sometimes it can creep up. And especially someone that has not struggled with it, you don't realize, oh my gosh, I'm depressed, until it's there and it smacked you in the face. I've gone through years and years and years of counseling, and I think that is a great tool to help, and I fully believe in it. And I even had a meeting this morning with my counselor, and I was telling her, you've given me so many great tools to use in that moment of anxiety or in that moment of depression. And just a few things that I've learned is do something small for yourself. And I think sometimes that can easily be like that we're entitled, but no, like whether that be put on your favorite song or go get your favorite drink, even if it's at the gas station, go get yourself your favorite tea, whatever, just to give yourself permission to feel something good.
Have your nails done?
That's a little bit more complicated than buying a drink, but yes. Go have a spa day.
My brother, my youngest brother, he actually goes to the spa. He gets his feet done and pedicures and his spa treatment. He lets himself be taken care of.
I mean, it's a great way to take care of yourself, but it's not always practical.
Yeah, that's true.
So doing that, and then also I wasn't going to say this, but fun fact, there's your vagus nerve from your mouth to your stomach. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a doctor, but that's what one of my therapists had told me. And you cannot be anxious and digest at the same time because your vagus nerve turns off when you're anxious. And so if you're feeling anxious, you pop in a piece of gum and your anxiety goes down because you're digesting.
Oh.
So, just a fun fact.
You just don't want to eat a dozen donuts.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Then when you're done, then you become more anxious because of the weight you gain.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's interesting. I have a thing where I believe people need to have people to spend time with. Mm-hmm. I know that for years I've had a night where a couple guys go out on a Wednesday night and we have a guys' night out. Mm-hmm. However, we go to Taco Bell. And we might go there at 6 or 7 and we spend 2-3 hours there. We have our food, then we just drink, but our sodas, but we conquer all the problems of the world, and it's our time out. We've mm-hmm. talked, we've done this, we mm-hmm. shared, and I think everybody needs to have a friend that they can go out and have lunch with, dinner with, or spend some time weekly. Mm-hmm. Because I think that helps anxiety, it helps depression. What do you think? I mean, this is your area. So
100%. And as an I'm actually an introvert, so.
So am I.
Yeah, so as an introvert, I'm not always up to doing something, but even journaling, and not internalizing everything, getting it out there, even if it's on paper. But 100%, I agree as far as spending time with someone. one thing that I was thinking of when you said that, and why I kind of laughed, is because during COVID and the shutdown was when I was pregnant. And I had my daughter prematurely at 30 weeks because I had COVID when I was pregnant at 16 weeks. And so I couldn't feel her kick yet. I didn't know if she was okay. The doctor wouldn't see me while I was sick. And so I had 2 weeks of staying in my room, away from my husband, pregnant with my daughter, couldn't feel her, didn't know if she was okay, just so sick. And I had to rely on God to sustain me in that moment because I was by myself. And then I had her prematurely because of it. And then I went through about 4 months of basically locked up at home with her, and only my in-laws saw her and met her, and my parents. And our best friends didn't meet her until I think it was like November. She was born in July. And I remember calling my best friend that night that I was having a hard time, and she came over. She said, "You cannot live like this because you were not created to go about life by yourself." And that will always remain such an impactful night for me, because I always remember that in the midst of my anxious moments of okay, I need to get out there. I need to do life with people.
Yeah. My wife, I'm going to talk about her. She hates it when I talk about her. I told her I want to be a stand-up comedian sometime. She says, absolutely not. Why? Because you go tell stories about me. I go, well, yeah, you're the best story there is.
Oh my gosh.
It's the best way to laugh. but because she is indoors a lot. She has this business, and she's there, and I think gets afraid to break away to have lunch because she's worried about her business. Mm-hmm. And but I'm more concerned with her mental and emotional health. So when it's really funny when she goes, and this is what's really weird. Oh man, if anybody can understand this, my wife, when I met her, she was salesperson she worked for her father. We ended up buying his business. But she was a salesperson. She went to all these different apartments through the day and talked to people, would sell flags. If you go to apartments, you see all the flags.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what we did. We did about 95% of all the apartments in San Antonio. And she would sell these pens, coffee mugs to the giveaways. And she would be gone all day, and she'd just be bubbling all afternoon and evening, and through the first few years of our marriage. And then we had bought the business from my father-in-law, and then I came along and thought, oh, well, there's other people go to other than apartments, and I thought every business is a customer. Then I thought, wow, what about out there in the world? So I decided to learn how to build a website, and I built this website, and it took off. Well, after it took off and I built another website and it got really big, we went through a little recession here, and so we weren't getting paid. So she worked in the office. Well, then because the business became so big in the office, she stayed there and she's worked there, but she's not as bubbly anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because she doesn't get out and talk. But when she does go out and talk to somebody, after a few hours and comes back, she's just really bubbly. I mean, it's just a total difference than staying in the office all day.
I love talking to her.
Yeah, she's a social butterfly.
Yeah.
She could talk to anybody about anything, and she's really good with this. She's an extrovert. Mm-hmm. Okay, so but being cooped up, I think that hurts people who are like that. And you have to know. I mean, people wouldn't think I'm an introvert, mm-hmm. but I am kind of. At the end of the day, if I've been busy and this and that, I'm more tired. Mm-hmm. When she's that way, she's more bubbly, So she's an extrovert.
Yeah.
But she's not living that sitting at home in an office.
Yeah.
However, it's funny because she'll be talking to people on the phone, customers, about kids and about living here, about going there. I'm like, what are you doing? Has nothing to do with anything except for she's just talking. But that's her outlet.
Yeah.
As an extrovert.
Yes.
To talk to people. And but you have to know. I mean, for me, I'll be straight to the point and we're done.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So since you talked about your wife, I'm going to tell a story about my husband. My husband's an extrovert too. So for the first couple months after we got married, I need my time in the morning to wake up, and he likes to just start talking right off the bat. And so I'd wake up and he'd just go blah, 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 and start talking and want to have a conversation. I'd be like, okay, and just be kind of quiet. And he would always say, "Are you mad at me?" "No, I'm not mad at you. I just need time to wake up, get my coffee." And so now he knows, okay, give her a few minutes and then she'll be good.
Well, it's kind of interesting because once I got into the ministry, it's a whole different ball game. It's like, but God did something to me to enjoy people, enjoy getting out, and because otherwise it was just my close friends and that was it. Mm-hmm. And now it's pretty well open out there. I do observe a lot first, and then I kind of open up. But we're kind of off our topic, aren't we? So, I think though this is a really good topic. I really think that it's not talked about enough. Most guys that I know, men, they don't want to admit that they have depression or anxiety. So they just deal with it in ways that are negative. Or they try to bottle it up, and somewhere it'll explode.
Yeah.
What people don't understand is we're like pressure cookers. The less we let things out, the more pressure builds up.
Yeah. Until
finally it blows.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about that?
I think that the conversation is becoming more open as opposed to 20 years ago. I think that mental health awareness is becoming more common, and counseling is becoming more accessible and common. And I think that that's, like I said, a great tool, and I think that's very much so needed. And I think that men should be validated in being vulnerable, and I think that society in general is very quick to say men need to be tough and stable, and always got the answer, right? And that's not true. I mean, we're all human, regardless of male or female. We are human, and we all have weaknesses and places that we need God to fill us and to work on. And I also think, too, we also have romanticized being busy. And, oh my gosh, I have so much on my plate. And that's that's setting the bar. And that's the new normal, and that's not healthy, and that's not what God designed our life to be like anyway. And then also, too, social media, and always seeing the highlight reel of everybody else's life, and being vulnerable is not really a thing anymore, because everyone wants to post edited pictures. And my husband actually read to me the other day a story of a mom that was at the pool with her daughter, and she set everything up on the towel perfectly and took the picture of the daughter, and the daughter got in the pool, and the mom sat on her phone while she posted the picture, and the daughter kept saying, "Mommy, play with me." And after she got done posting, she took her daughter and left. She didn't even enjoy the day with her daughter. And I think that's another reason why mental health is becoming more of an issue, is because we only see what's on social media.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, I grew up in a dysfunctional family. My dad left when I was 9, and I lived with my mom didn't really live with my dad at all. My brothers and sister spent time living with my dad, so it was really weird. And my friends had the same situation that I grew up with. Their father left, and they grew up with their mom, and we were all kind of in together with the same kind of issues. We're taught to, especially men, we're taught to be independent. A lot of women now are being taught to be independent.
Yes.
Where in the past, women were taught to be more dependent. which I guess they're trying to move away. They think that's just not good. But really, we need to learn to be dependent for several reasons. Number one, Jesus. If we can't be dependent on God, then how are we really functioning in a healthy relationship in Him if we're not depending on Him? I mean, the Bible teaches us to depend on Him. But in a marriage or a relationship, so mostly a marriage, I'll deal with that. The strength of a marriage, which most people don't seem to understand, is vulnerability.
Yeah.
Most guys, and even women, think that that's not true, that vulnerability means you'll get hurt. But if you have a guy here and you have a girl here who are vulnerable, what happens is they so trust the other person, it's like, I give to you everything that I am that you could destroy me. Now that sounds pretty scary, but if the other person does the same thing, what happens is you do this.
Yeah.
And to pull that apart is almost impossible.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody who's not going to be vulnerable and somebody is, you have this. Or if you have two people who are not, you have this.
Yeah.
So the vulnerability is so important because it bonds and strengthens that relationship. And it's the same thing with God. Jesus has been so totally vulnerable to us. He's open. So what are we going to do? Are we going to do this? Or are we going to be totally vulnerable and be dependent? What do you think?
I think that's a great visual too. And I just keep thinking about, like I said, my favorite worship song, Here Again, and the bridge is, not for a minute was I forsaken, the Lord is in this place. And I think that it's, with vulnerability comes intimacy, and not just physical intimacy, but emotional intimacy. And I think the fear of rejection or fear of abandonment and all of that dives so much and has so much pull on us if we're not in a healthy place of processing our life or trauma or, our childhood or whatever. But when we are, God just uses it and does such a beautiful thing to it. I actually saw something this morning that said something about, it was talking to a man, and it said, never expose your wife's weaknesses, put up a barrier around her. And I thought, what a cool way to put that, that like the man is to protect the wife and vice versa.
And vice versa, yeah.
Yeah, in a different way. I just think it's just really, really cool.
Yeah, how often does one spouse talk bad about their spouse to other people? I mean, that's pretty common in a lot of areas, and it tears down the relationship, the trust, the bonds, the marriage itself.
Yeah.
And it's that way in friendships as well. It's you still have that protection of your friend. It's interesting. In 1 Peter 5:7 it says, "Cast your anxiety on him because he cares for you." Yeah. And that, I think, there are scriptures all through the Bible that talk about this, like this. In Philippians 4:13 it says, "I can do all this through him who gives me strength." So there's a lot of conquer over poor mental health. There's a lot of conquer over anxiety. There's a lot of conquer over depression in the scriptures. If we take them at their surface value, we'll realize that it's given us a lot of, almost like God knows or knew that we're going to have these problems, and so he kind of slipped them in the scriptures all through, from cover to cover. I mean, it's all through there. I mean, I'm talking Malachi, "For I, the Lord, do not change. Therefore, O children of Jacob," which we're grafted into if you're Gentile, "are not consumed." So here we are. He doesn't change because we're so used to people and things changing, and we're getting hurt because of it. And God says, "Hey, I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever. I never change. I don't lie. Period." We can trust that. So I think that's really cool. I have another scripture to read. It's in Lamentations 3:21-23, and it says this: "But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I mean, that I just think is the perfect scripture to deal with the stuff we need to deal with and shed.
Yeah.
Because then we're putting onto Him what we need to. And it's all about keeping Him focused.
Mm-hmm.
It's been wonderful having you.
Thank you so much.
So,
it's been really fun to be here and good for the soul.
Yeah. Abundance Ministries. Do look it up. Do look into this. I think it's worth your while. Pray for this ministry. It's a new ministry. And like I said, she's on fire. So thank you for joining the Believer's Journey. Everybody have a wonderful day. Aloha.